Hey, kid. Hey. Hey.
Huh? Who's that?
Over here. Huh?
Sir? Who are you?
It's me, Mario. Hey, you got time, kid?
Yeah?
What are your thoughts on child labor?
Oi! Oi! I told you, you can't be within 50 feet of the children. Get up! Shoot! Get up! Alright, for today, we're gonna be checking out Achillobator's abilities, and you will soon see there are some interesting things about Achillobator's kit that you may not have known. Because I've tested this before. Unfortunately, my recording got yeeted by NVIDIA once again, so had to redo the entire recording. But yeah, first up, we're gonna be checking out the things that Achillobator can pounce, because I think this is one of the first few things that come into people's minds. I'm not sure if there's a command because people have pointed out that when I was testing with Sarko's grab that there was a command to determine the threshold of what you can grab. I've not been able to find a similar one for Achillobator, but I've heard that the threshold for combat weight is 5,000, so anything over 5,000 it can pounce. A pretty quick way of verifying that would be to find something a little less under 5,000 and see if we can still pounce it. Amarga has a combat weight of 4,650. So if we can't pounce an Amarga, we already know that it has to be heavier than 4,650. So what do you know? We can't pounce an Amarga. That is surprising. What else? Let me check out my list real quick. I guess it really is 5,000, or maybe it's at least has to be heavier than 4,650, because we can't pounce on Amarga. On the list of combat weights, there's nothing heavier than an Amarga but lighter than, say, a Sarko. The next combat weight on my list jumps up to 5,000. We already know we can pounce things that have a combat weight of 5,000. Here's my Sarko here. Come on, come on. Yeah, that is a Sarko. Wait, where is my Sarko? Oh my god, did it spawn up there? Hello? Down here, please. Okay, right. Sarko has a combat weight of 5,000. Boom, there you go. So, it's fair to say that the least you could pounce should have a combat weight of 5,000, right? We can't pounce on Amarga, and there's nothing in between Amarga and, say, a Sarko's combat weight, at least in the official playable list. And therefore, the list of what Achillobator could pounce is... Actually, that's it. That's everything that Achillo could pounce. So it's all the big players, the big ones. Achillo has a combat weight of... Should have done this first. Combat weight is 2,600 and has a health of 600. First up, we're gonna test out the bites. We're gonna start with the bite. The regular bite, the default one. That is 50 damage flat on another Achillo. That is a base damage of 50. And you'll notice that it has... Its cooldown is about... I can't say if it's 2 seconds. It doesn't feel like it's 2 seconds. I think it's 1.5 seconds. Definitely feels like 1.5 seconds. Pretty basic. Nothing surprising there. We have the Raptor Strikes up next. This is a fast bite. And that reminds me of like Viper Strike, actually. Maybe that's it. It has a cooldown that is less than a second, so you can keep spamming it. But this one requires you to stack your bites first for it to deal any real damage. just so you know, this is how much damage you deal on the first strike. 5 damage. That is 5 base damage on the first strike. But once you stack it up, you can see there's a 9-second window for you to stack your bites. It stops at 5 stacks. That's the max stacks you can have. And let me just get... See, that is 55 damage once you have the 5 stacks going. So, 55 damage... It doesn't seem like a lot when compared to the regular bite, but if you factor in the fact that it can be spammed and has like a cooldown that is, what, half a second? That will shred things pretty fast. But you have to, you know, stack and get to 5 stacks first. So that's the only real downside to that. You would want to use it while you're pounced onto something, because that is the best way you can accumulate stacks, would be once you're latched on, you can just keep spamming it. So yeah, that's one way to use it. And then we have the shred here that can only be used while pound. So obviously we can't use it or test it out on this Achillo. I'll have to swap off to something heavier. But yeah, you can see there it's grayed out, so you can't use it outside of a pounce. I brought out an EO here for us to test it. EO has a health of 800 and a combat weight of 6,500. Latch on, and there you go. You can now use it. When we do the math, because that is factoring in the combat weight, you would get a base damage of 54 on this one. Now, what I like about this is it's not too far off from Raptor Strike's damage once fully stacked, 55 versus 54. And also, you'll notice that Shred has a cooldown of 1 second. If you don't want to stack with Raptor Strikes, that's fine. But I still think Raptor Strikes is able to out DPS Shred due to the fact that you can just spam it so much. But the caveat is you have to get 5 stacks to get the most out of it. So there's that to consider. If you don't want to, let's say you're pouncing onto something and you don't want to stay on for too long, maybe you would want to consider using Shred over Raptor Strikes. Yeah, that's it for the regular bites. Let's move on to the senses. Senses, we have 3. We have the Lone Hunter. Gain 10% increased attack damage when not in a group. Fairly basic. Mob Boss. Increases the damage of all small raptors in your group by 3% when near you. Stacks up to 7 times, so that's what, 21% for each small raptor in your group. But the downside is you can't have one more Achillo in the group. If you've seen the trailer, they showcased Achillo as kind of like a mob boss commanding a group of small raptors. So yeah, that is definitely new in terms of interactions. And then Hunter's Instinct increases land movement speed by 5% when not in combat. I played with Achillo and for a good while, just trying to get a feel for it. I found Lone Hunter to be very good. Just because of the fact that Achillo does not deal a lot of bleed, but deals a lot of raw damage. This really does come in handy, especially if you're solo. And yeah, there are advantages to playing solo, even as a pack animal. The fact that you can run off and heal and then come back again is one. Hunter's Instinct increases land movement speed by 5% when not in combat. That's decent. There's the senses. Front limbs, we have 2 Cruel Swipe and Claw Attack. I'm gonna start with... let's start with a Cruel Swipe, why not? Cruel Swipe has a base damage of 58? Yeah, that's 58. But the interesting thing about this is that it incentivizes you to take on larger, much larger things. check out the damage it deals to something like a Rex, which has a health of 800 and a weight of 6,500. Yeah. That's right. It did more than 100 damage to this Rex. 102. Yeah, that's 102. We did more damage to the Rex than we did to an Achillo. It specifically says that it deals more damage to heavier enemies. But if you did try this out on something much lighter than you will actually do less damage. Deinonychus has a health of 500 and weight of 1000. Perfect. Cruel swipe here. There you go. We did so little damage, and yeah. But try that again just so it's not a fluke. I think that was a headshot. Let me try that again. Yeah, 485.7. That is what, 15? Less than 15 damage? The lighter the target, the smaller the damage you deal. Which is the inverse of how damage is normally calculated, right? So this thing will absolutely shred the big boys. You can now see why they gave it a 7-second cooldown. At first it didn't make much sense to me why I would want to run this with a 7-second cooldown, but after testing, I said, oh, that's why. Anyway, let's move on to the other claw attack. That is the claw attack. And this one also has something interesting going for it. Okay, claw attack has a 3-second cooldown and it has a base damage of 90, which is pretty good. And I found that regardless of how many swipes actually hits the target, it still counts as one damage source. And just to show that, I'm gonna try and hit it here. Okay, 764, right? And just to show that was not a fluke. 764. Alright. Now I'm gonna try it from just one side with just one arm hitting with the swipe. There we go. 764 again. Try it from the other side. Only one arm should be hitting. Yeah, it deals the same amount of damage regardless if it hits both arms or just one. And if you've been observing, there's only one blood spot or blood splash and one damage noise coming from the Rex. So it seems like it is just one damage source, but has two opportunities to damage, if you get what I mean. I could, let's say I'm running at the Rex, and I could activate the claw attack early, like this. And that would still count as 90 damage. Or I could just do this. That's also 90 damage. See, you could preempt your attack, since there's two opportunities to hit the target, but it will count as only one whole 90 damage. So it's great for hit and runs, it seems like. Oh, and by the way, it says here it deals additional damage if you use wild pounce onto an enemy, right? But I found that that is actually the opposite. Right, remember we were taking this Rex's health down to 764, right? Every time we did the swipe. And watch how much damage it deals now. Yeah. I'm actually dealing less damage while pounced and using this attack. I think this is a bug, actually. Not sure. I think the devs are already aware, but this might be a bug. You're dealing less damage while pounced. The opposite of what the description says. Yeah, just to show that again. Ooh, interesting. Why did that miss? Pouncing is so funky sometimes. Sometimes it looks like should land, but doesn't. Yeah, 778.4. I'm dealing way less damage. If any dev is watching this, if you don't already know, you might want to look into that. Speaking of pouncing, the problem with pouncing right now, and it's been brought up by a lot of people, it's that a lot of the things that Achillo is supposed to hunt has immunity to the pounce. But I saw in one of the PTB changes that they're gonna be tweaking it so that they would remove the pounce and grab immunity from, was it slick hide and slick feathers? The same as my suggestion from my Sarco grab video. So yeah, looking forward to that change. Because currently it's a hit or miss when you're trying to pound something like a Rex, and you find out that it's running the hide and is immune to pouncing. But I just wish they'd moved with that change before adding in the Achillobator. Because I saw a lot of people confused. Is the pounce working? What can I pounce? Why can't I pounce the Rex? Like asking those questions in the chat, and it's hilarious. That's been the claw attacks. Metabolism, we have just a standard scavenger and hyper carnivore. The hide, we have hollow bones. Reduces jumping stamina cost by 50%. Strength in numbers increases your armor by 2% for each small raptor in your group. So another one of those mob raptor playstyle. Then survival of the fittest increases speed by 10% while bleeding or envenomated. Does not activate when in a group. The one that I've found the most use would be hollow bones, because I use jump a lot, especially when trying to attack, and I found hollow bones makes my life easier. Well, that and what was it? Rudder? Yeah, both of these. They're great if you find yourself constantly using the jump. It has its uses, like you could jump onto an enemy and claw attack. You can land headshots if you jump and attack. Yeah, that's one way I've been using it. Which is why I like having both on, the rudder and hollow bones. The legs, we have another one of the mob playstyle. Leader of the pack increases your speed by 5% while grouped with small raptors, who gain a 25% increased jump height. And obviously the pounce and the ripping kick. The ripping kick is, I don't even know what use there is for this thing, because it deals so little damage. It's like 10 raw damage, base damage, and then what? Barely any bleed. Right, just to show you how much damage ripping kick deals. What is that? Like, I'm bad at math. What, 11? Something like that. That's a weird value too. Should have been a flat number, but... And you can see... Oh, there, already healed off the bleed. It deals very, very little bleed too. So I'm not sure why they even gave it bleed in the first place. One last test just to show you how little damage it does. Yeah, that, whatever that damage is. It's fair to say it's like 10. 11 if you're generous. That's the raw base damage that it deals. and barely any bleed. Wait, watch. Try spam it. See, it doesn't deal a lot of bleed. Maybe if you land this many, it'll do its thing, but then again, why not just use a regular bite? You do 5 times the damage on each strike anyway. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this attack. I don't use it much because it consumes valuable stamina, although I gotta say the cooldown is nice. But you're gonna be wasting stamina using this. And if you haven't already noticed, Achillo burns through stamina fairly quickly. Right, this is the running cost of the stamina without the counterbalance ability, which reduces that by 15%. But you can see it's burning through that stamina pretty fast. But that's actually alright because Achillo has this nice little ability, the Panicking Sprint, which replenishes 25 stamina and reduces the attack of all nearby creatures by 20% for 30 seconds. I found something hilarious with this ability. It says it reduces the attack of all nearby creatures, right? Although it doesn't specifically say the distance. But I found out that it actually works on your packmates as well to their detriment. Let me swap off here. Right, I'm gonna activate the Panicking Sprint, right? The default bite should do 50, but when I activate the Panicking Sprint, and remember, this is my packmate now, right? We're in a group. And I'm gonna activate this. Then and see the damage. See, it did 40 damage to me instead of 50. So that means you shouldn't be using the Panicking Sprint while you're right next to your packmates, because they're gonna receive a debuff every time someone uses the Panicking Sprint. Which I found was hilarious. But if you're running solo, that would actually be nice. If you're trying to hunt and you're not in a pack, you don't have to worry about, you know, being a detriment to your pack. You can actually use it to debuff whatever you're hunting, reduce their damage by 20%. Anyway, yeah, it works on your packmate, so be careful when using Panicking Sprint. But on the plus side, the 25 stamina replenishment is actually pretty nice, because that is about a third of your stamina back. But the ability has a 3-minute cooldown, so there's that. It's the one I'm using over Warcry. Increases 10% increased armor and stamina recovery of other nearby small raptors. It doesn't include you. Could have been better if it included you to some extent, but yeah. And then Bark also buffs other raptors. Oh, it says all raptors. It doesn't say has to be a small raptor. Okay. So that's the standard Bark ability that the other raptors have. Okay. Ooh. By 8% within 30 meters for 20 seconds. Able to stack 10 times. And if you stack that with something like Cruel Swipe? Oh boy. You can do some funny numbers with Achillo.
Why you bully me?
Overall, this is what my Achillo build usually looks like. I like it. I like Achillo. It's viable in both solo and in a group I've found so far. I don't know why, but the ability to spam jump is really nice, especially when fighting something. I've been able to snipe Hatses and Hatses out of the air. Alright, so that's been the overview of the official Achillobator playable. And hopefully you've gotten something out of this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye. Encircle the child. Encircle the child. Pick it up, Sorko. I know you want to. Pick it up.